Many muscle car fans are aware of the GT350H program, where you could go to your local Hertz rent-a-car dealer and rent one of these GT350 Shelby Mustangs and have an awesome time with it. But this is one of only two that narrowly escaped the fate of being treated like a rental car, and we'll tell you why. In my opinion, just about every Shelby GT350 Mustang is special, but this one is really unique because it has a couple of really cool stories that go with it. First, you'll notice that it's black and it's got GT350H in the stripe on the side, and that H means this was destined to be part of the Hertz rental car fleet. Believe it or not, you could go to your local Hertz rental car place and rent one of these cars back in 1966. It was a really neat marketing program that Ford did with Shelby and Hertz, and the theory was if you could rent these cars, you could turn rental customers into new car buyers because people could experience the thrill of driving a GT350 around, and hopefully that would turn them into buyers. And the fate of these cars was that the rental ones, after they did their time as rental cars, ended up on a Ford dealer lot somewhere, and they were eventually sold to the public. They were full-on GT350 cars. I mean, they had the Hypo 289 Shelby Cobra engine making 306 horsepower, 329 foot-pounds of torque. They had the aluminum high-rise intake manifold with the specially tuned 4-barrel carburetor. They had the fully tuned Shelby exhaust. The suspension was just like any other GT350 in the fact that it was a computer-designed front suspension geometry. These cars had special springs, tunable Coney shocks, different sway bars. They were lowered in the front. They had disc brakes in front and oversized rear drums. You know, they were everything a GT350 was, but it was something you could go down the street and rent for the weekend. And a lot of them were actually raced as rental cars. There's all kinds of cool stories floating around in the Shelby circles about cars that were brought to the track, tuned up and upfitted with racing parts and raced and returned. There's even some stories about people that would rent these cars, pull the engine out, put it in their own race car, beat that up for the weekend, swap the motor back in the rental car and return it. I think the first 100 or so were 4-speeds, but Hertz was complaining that after everyone came back, they had to put a clutch in them, so they started selling some automatics. This car has an excellent real wood steering wheel. It feels awesome in your hands. A good gauge layout here. Of course, the tach is right on the front of the dash, easy to see without taking your eyes off the road. And although it wasn't a rental car, it still got driven. It's showing 86,875 miles on the clock right now. But if you look at the outside, it looks like a show car. The Hertz rental car program is really a unique story all by itself. But what makes this car even more unique is that it never went into the rental fleet, okay? So the original deal was that Hertz requested 1,000 cars that they would have delivered to their facility and dispersed throughout the Hertz rental car fleet. And Shelby provided them with 2 cars that were used as prototypes for the Hertz people to evaluate and get to know. And Shelby thought that after those first 2 prototypes were delivered, that the contract was for 1,000 additional cars. Well, Hertz saw that a little bit differently, and they took the first 2 as part of the 1,000, and they were only expecting 998 more. Well, Shelby delivered the extra 1,000 cars, so in total, there was 1,002 of these made. Hertz actually refused the last 2 cars. They said, no, we've already got our 1,000, you can keep the last 2. So of those last 2 cars that were never used as actual rental cars, this is one of them. The whereabouts of the other one isn't known. But this car, instead of going to a Hertz rental car dealer, it went right to a Ford dealership where it was sold. So this car escaped the fate of being treated like a rental car. It's pretty amazing. And you can follow the story of this car in the Shelby registry. It's on page 533, and it talks about all the owners the car's ever had up until the latest version of the Shelby registry. What we think is cool is that this car was destined to be a rent-a-racer for $17.17 a mile back in 1966. You could have gone and had a lot of fun with this car. The black and gold is a unique color combination, although the GT350H was available in a few other colors. They had them in a sapphire blue, an ivy green, and a candy apple red, and the Wimbledon white like most of the Shelbys, but the vast majority were the black with the gold. We just think it's cool to be able to see this car in person in the Brothers collection and share it with people because it is, again, a car that narrowly escaped a fate of being a rental car. So this is definitely one of the luckiest muscle cars ever built. And we're lucky to be able to share them with you, and you can see more of it on our website at MuscleCarOfTheWeek.com. Of course, we have the Facebook page. If you go there, you can see this car, last week's, even a preview of next week's. And we have our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to that, you'll never miss an episode and another cool car like this of Muscle Car of the Week.